Hi there, my name's Kevin and this is Silver Hill. This video is for all of us who are in our late 50s and 60s and up. And you know, one of the things that I've had to live with in my life was sort of how my retirement, basically my semi-retirement, came about. I used to work full time in a CD store, and before that I did a lot of labor type jobs, you know. I won't get into that, but yeah. So what happened was I was working in a store and was there for almost 8 years, and I loved the job, and I was having some health issues that began towards the end of it, which is funny things, everything was kind of timed, right? You know, and one thing I found was it just sort of came, I mean, you know, it came on sudden, but it didn't. And so I felt that I had finally arrived with this work that I was doing, and basically it was a CD DVD store, and you know, I began to really, you know, I loved most of the customers and the people, our patrons that would come in and buy our product, and it was wonderful because you were talking about the things you liked, you know, the music you liked, your movies you liked, and it was great. But the store had to close down, and being part of management, I was privy to the fact that it was coming, and I was told to keep quiet to the others about how, you know, about how it was going to happen in the spring, how the store was going to close. It was actually the whole chain closed, and well, you know the whole story behind physical media. I mean, people still buy it, but it's not the thing now. It's downloading and streaming. So what that did is it kind of put me out of a job, and it was the spring that it happened in March, and it was quite a time, you know, just let go of that job. And I had even 6 months warning to kind of think about my next steps, but at the same time I had been struggling with both, I guess they're kind of connected. One led to the other, not one led to the other, but one affects the other and vice versa. A lot of we'll just say intestinal issues, which some of them later I had to have surgery for, but that's another story. But it was like this was occurring at the same time that I was losing my main job. And I still felt, because I was quite young, you know, I thought I was young, you know, I was, how old was I? I'm trying to think. Late 40s, early 50s, I can't remember. But, and now I'm 62 actually right now. No, 61 and a half. That's a good thing to forget sometimes. But yeah, I did go on to do some other work. You know, I did some self-employment for a while, and I still am doing self-employment, but it's not the same as having a regular paycheck. You know, it's just not the same. And so I often feel that I never really got over that closure, and that I felt like I was thrown into what I would like to call semi-retirement. You might think of it as retirement, but it was retirement with while searching for, you know, day-to-day means of survival, doing different jobs and different things, but not steady, not solid. And I've always felt bad about that, because I grew up in a family where everybody, you know, they worked right straight, you know, till you're 65, and then you just kept working. Like, you know, if you had a farm or whatever, you just kept doing that. So yeah, I never quite got over that, and I feel like I was thrown into it quite unprepared. There was some good things about it. I mean, lots of time to make decisions, not having to be at a place at exactly the same time every day, or not every day, but when you're required to be there. But I do really feel that it never really got like it was such a change. It's such a change, because in my body physically was affected by many things, and I was going through things that didn't permit me to go back to the same kind of work that I had. I tried, and I couldn't hack it. I mean, when you have, nobody talks about it, but when you have digestive issues, let's just leave it at that, and different things, which I have had diagnosed, and I know what they are, but man, it's hard to live with it. You just can't stand behind a cash, you know, and I had done a lot of labor work before that. And so the job I had at the CD store, you know, I could work hard when I wanted to, in a sense, like, you know, there's lights need to be changed, walls need to be tore down, whatever. It wasn't the same kind of corporate pressure as you'd get in a lot of these other box stores, where you got to show up, you got to do what you're told, and you got to do it when you're told. And that was my next step. That was the next place for me to go, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. So I felt bad about that, you know, and I've never taken disability. I've always tried to find my own way that way. I'm not saying anything against people that take disability. I just heard it's not that easy to get on, and you know, I found even going on what they call employment insurance. You know, of course, I took a year of employment or whatever back then. It's not as much pay, but you know, I find that even being on employment insurance, I find it hard to justify it. It's almost depressing to get money in the mail. People talk about UBI, you know, Universal Basic Income, and how good it will be for people, and I think it will be, and I think we probably need it now. I really do. I mean, there's too much homelessness. I've never seen it. Like in the 70s, there were people, you know, the homeless people that I knew of were just people that were either lazy or drunk. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's an issue in itself. I understand, and mental health and different things come in there. But you could almost, back then, the people would say it's their fault, right? It's their fault they're in that situation. And I'm not saying that's true, but there was this sort of idea, you know, you don't work, you don't eat, right? Now it's like you can work and work and work, and you still don't eat because the pay doesn't equate enough for, you know, rent or whatever. So it is tough, and making these changes is really, really tough. And I have to be honest with you that way. Maybe you're not interested in this video at all, or, you know, but it is tough. There's ways to get by. There's things you can do. You know, everything from selling on Marketplace to, you know, flipping things. And I do art too as well. And I did caricatures and cartoons, and that would get some extra pay. But it's not the same, you know. It's not the same as working for a company and getting a regular steady paycheck. So it's different. Yeah, so I do think things like UBI are probably really necessary now, but for me personally, I just feel like getting a check in the mail for doing nothing. I don't know. Do you guys have any suggestions there? How do you get your head around that? How do you, like, maybe I'm just too proud or something, you know? I don't know, but yeah, even now I'm in some pain, and yeah, I couldn't work behind cash and just say, you know, you get a lineup like we used to do at Christmas and stuff. We used to get big, long lineups. Of course, I was younger then, and aside from having back issues, I guess that's what I was getting at before that, is from working labor work. I mean, I worked some intense physical labor, and it led to some back issues. And back issues is one of those things you couldn't talk about growing up, because it's like, you know, it's like, it's a little pain, just get over it. And now people seem to be more open to the idea that, you know, we being bipeds and standing erect and all that stuff, our spines aren't designed for working on concrete floors for decades, you know. And I did do that with the type of labor work I was in, very intense, you know, heavy lifting and swinging your side to side and standing on these hard floors. So when I did get the job in the store, I was very, very grateful for it, because it allowed me to, in between customers or whatever, there was a shelf behind us, and I could kind of like lean back. It would take some of the weight off of, you know, of my back, and it would help. So that was all doable. So I was really sad. I was really sad when I lost that. And everybody talks about change, you know, and change is good. And yeah, it's good. I know, like AI is probably going to cure cancer. That's a great thing, but it's probably going to take over the world too, at some point. You know, and yeah, so there's always, with technology, there's always this give and take, you know. I suppose the CDs put the record stores out of business, or well, actually, it was you know, the 8-track cassette and that sort of thing. But yeah. So it's hard when you get here. I don't know what you guys, have you ever found yourself forced into like a not so such like a planned retirement? It's tough. I do believe, and I saw the other day on the news that one of those countries, Denmark, I think, they're going to try to make people work till they're in their 70s if they can. Um, I'm not against a little of that if a person's healthy enough to do it, and you know, because there's something, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but there are so many people that turn 65 or whatever and they retire, and man, they're dead within a year. I don't know if it's totally like physiological or what it is, but it just seems odd that the morning, that as soon as they get to this point in their life where they don't have to, you know, jump out of bed at 6 a.m. or whatever, then their life's over. So maybe there is some aspect that you have to keep busy in retirement, and you have to, even looking for a job or money, you know, like that's not a bad thing. Yeah, so I guess if you guys have any thoughts on this, if you've ever experienced this, let me know. This is, yeah, kind of a personal one. You might have dropped off, not being so interested in this one, but it's just a personal one to let you know kind of where I'm at and where I've been, and it's kind of lonely. You get used to, you know, you get used to going to work and working around. You know, with me, there was at least five and under people, you know, that you'd be working with, staff and different shifts and regional supervisors and stuff like that. And so you got to know them, and you were always out brushing shoulders with people's. And now you're like, you know, it's like you get up and you got to go find somebody. You know, that's tougher. You know, so you know, just being thrust into. I think at first you think, wow, this is great. I don't have to be around my coworkers anymore. And your coworkers aren't your friends. I did do a video on that. They're just not in the sense of like lifetime friends. Very rare. But yeah, you get kind of thrust into this world where it's very, very busy, and then it's up to you to make it busy. I don't know if that has anything to do with why people sometimes don't live past the retirement age, or if it's just a thing. I don't know. I'm open to any suggestions on that one. I'm still going anyway, and it's been several years since I've been let go, because we all know about when the stores in the 2000s, yeah, like 2011, 2012, you know, that kind of era when it started. And, you know, now we don't see physical media really much anywhere. You know, you go into stores and very rare to see stuff, you know. Amazon's probably in some Walmart. We'll have some. But, yeah, okay, so I'm not going to rant on about that. It's just, it is hard sometimes to live with that. It's just such a change, you know. I'm trying to work through it. If anybody has any suggestions, just write them in the comments, you know. What keeps you going if you're in that position? Maybe you've been fortunate enough, you had a lot put away for your retirement, and you just, all you could do, you know, you're just happy to go fishing every day, or painting pictures. Yeah, but again, you know, I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm alive. The pain isn't too bad today. But I will get home and try to get some rest, because yeah, because it does, I do need to rest down there, in intestinal stuff. Yeah, it's like, I guess what I was going to say, it's like, you know, you can talk about anything in life, you know, but you can fail at anything in life, but finances, I mean, you know what I mean, socially, I think maybe that's what makes Instagram and places like that thrive, because people always kind of look good on those platforms. They look like they're doing well because they're eating the best food in some of the best places, and the sunniest days or whatever. And yeah, there's just something about when you're having pain, and you're just, you know, you're living your life, and it gets more difficult as you're older. It gets more difficult. It gets, because you start. Someone said the other day, they said something about, oh, oh, you know, my uncles and aunts or something, they were saying they live in the, I think she called it the death years. No, no, not that. The disease years. And it's like, yeah, it's true. You know, you're skipping along. Generally speaking, I mean, there's people that have problems, you know, when they're 20 years old. But generally speaking, you think you got 30, 40, you know, years, and you think, you know, well, you think your 40s, you think your 50s, 60s, 70s are going to be just like your 40s. And it's, I think it's very rare. I mean, you know, even I try to take care of my health. I try to do exercise, go on walks, work out, lift weights. I try to eat a lot of like vegetables and try to get some B vitamins as well. But yeah, it just, you start getting in a year where you just little bit by bit, parts of your body just start to not they start wanting to retire, I guess. So you can't work 110% like you could before. So I don't know, maybe UBI was a good thing. Maybe it's just a matter of getting used to a whole different way of dealing with money. I don't know. But yeah, that's something that people, our society is just not, they're not willing to say. You can fail and you can, don't get me wrong, I know there's sorrow and pain, but society will accept divorce. They'll accept insanity. I mean, they'll accept everything. But if you fail at making a lot of money, you go way down on the human scale. You really do. Like, people don't respect you if you don't make much money. And that's probably why it's best not to tell people how much you do make. Because as soon as they know how much you make, they're going to put you in that place. They're going to always look at you as being at a certain level. And yeah, it's really sad. It's really sad. I guess I'm just too altruistic. Someone has called me that, but okay. Anyways, yeah, it's just some of my own personal things that I struggle with. Maybe you have similar things. I'd love to hear it, you know, because no one wants to be alone. So just please leave a comment and like as well. Okay, thank you, and you have a good one. See you guys.